Your water.
Oh, thanks.
Look parched.
I actually just came from my doctor's appointment where they had this scolding throat. Literally parched.
I'll fire it up then. Good to go. All right, I'm going to call to order the town board meeting at the Town of Lisbon Town Hall on Monday, July 8th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman.
Here.
Supervisors Gamino
Here.
and Plotecker.
Here.
Supervisors Moonen and Beal are excused. Also present are Town Administrator Gina Gresh.
Here.
And Town Clerk Dan Green.
Thank you, Dan. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 is comments from citizens present. Does anyone wish to speak tonight?
Hello, I'm Sherry Howard, North 73 West 25201 Howard Lane. I would just like to give a few comments on the last item on the agenda, the request from the Village of Sussex to participate in a cooperative plan. If it is in fact a cooperative plan that deals with shared services, awesome. It'll save both municipalities costs in the long run. And that could be handled as a separate shared services agreement. If it is a cooperative plan, AKA the boundary agreement, and they're looking to reopen the boundary agreement because the Village of Sussex was irresponsible in how it handled its growth and development, much to its own residents' demise. That did not justify Lisbon reopening the boundary agreement, and I think you will find residents very opposed to reopening the boundary agreement to look at extending the village growth areas. If it's for shared services, awesome, do it, but do it as a separate standalone agreement. The other comment I want to make, which kind of is with that, but I think it's more on the JPC for Wednesday, is there's apparently now some discrepancy between the 5 special use areas that I believe are part of the boundary agreement. And from what I read, and again, I only read it in the media because no information's really been out there yet, it appears that Sussex redid some of those areas with different zoning. Well, if it's part of the boundary agreement, those maps should stay. When those areas come up to be developed and the town is fine with what Sussex is proposing now in their future 2040 plan, that can be rezoned at that time to match what their needs are. I don't think it requires, again, reopening the boundary agreement. So I guess my request to the board is reject any request to reopen the boundary agreement, explore all opportunities to share services as a separate standalone agreement.
Thank you, Sherry.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Branchin. I live at N74 W25134 Howard Lane in the Town of Lisbon. And I would like to kind of reiterate what Sherry just said as far as the boundary or this cooperative plan. We were told that it's actually a boundary agreement type of situation that's going on there. So again, I also concur with Sherry as far as shared services would be fantastic. That's something that we should definitely look into for our town. But if the Village of Sussex ran out of land for their usage, I don't believe that the Town of Lisbon, that's not our problem, I guess, put it mildly. We don't really need to do anything more with our boundaries. We don't need every nook and cranny of land being gobbled up for development. So I really would appreciate that that boundary agreement just kind of, let's keep it as it is, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Edward Wick, N65 W22201 St. James Parkway, Lot 09, Sussex, Wisconsin 53089. And I'd like to respectfully request the Medal of Valor for saving a woman's life in arson. And I'm wondering how that came about. We talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Medal of Valor?
Yeah, for saving a woman's life in arson. We talked about it
I
2
wasn't
weeks
here at
ago.
the last meeting, but
Oh, okay.
we don't officially have a Medal of Valor, I guess, but we could. Doug is actually just getting back from vacation. That's something the fire department
Yeah.
would do.
Okay.
I guess you have some kind of information you could send me in an email or something that we can review and.
Yeah, it was June 5th, 2015. I can get that for you if you'd like.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Lisa Zindars, W260N5833 Mary Hill Road, Lisbon. Just kind of going on what the first two people were saying with the boundary agreement. I know that the Richmond School Board was notified of it, and if this is going to be something along the lines of them trying to absorb us again, no, absolutely not. We voted them down, and we do not want any part of it. The town people made their say about it, and we are not changing our mind. So please, whatever you do not let them take any of our land or force their taxes and sewer and everything else upon us and change any of the zoning with the schools or with any of the services.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? All right. And ends comments from citizens present.
Didn't we have a couple here?
Oh,
We have
sorry.
a couple of emailed
I
comments.
did receive an email from, or Gina received an email from William Eater, and I'll just read it. Dear Gina, my name is William Eater. My address is N74 W25168 Howard Lane. I have been a property owner and resident in the town of Lisbon since 1972. My comments on item I of Monday's meeting are as follows. I would agree to a cooperative plan with Sussex in some areas. However, I would strongly oppose any changes in the current border agreement. I see no reason to revise the existing boundaries. Respectfully, William Eater. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move up item 10A on new business, which is discussion and necessary action on Eller's proposal for conducting a Phase 1 feasibility analysis for a possible TID number 2 at LSBT 0273.998, known as the Brown property, subject to Vanguard reimbursing the town for Eller's fees. We have John Cameron here from Eller's tonight. How you doing, John?
Evening. Good. Thanks for moving me up. Appreciate it. We provided the town with a proposal for would be potentially the creation of tax incremental finance district number 2. So we were approached by Waukesha County after they had some discussion, I think, with the town and the village about this property as it abuts or straddles both properties. So in our capacity as the municipal advisor for the town, what this proposal would do would be very similar to TIF District number 1, where the first step would be an initial feasibility analysis where we would look at within the area within the town what sort of potential project costs might that area incur. What is the tax increment that would be potentially realized from this development, and what sort of cash flow type scenario would we be looking at, and how feasible would and successful would a potential TIF district be. So that's the first phase of the analysis. We do just like we did with the last tax incremental finance district, where we present a feasibility analysis and a memo type style report with all of the analysis, including what the potential boundary of the TIF district would look like. And we would come back before the town board to walk through that with you all and determine whether you want to move forward with a TIF district in this area, or whether it's really not feasible based on the the information or desires of the board.
Okay. Any questions from the board? John, how long, so if we do this analysis, how long are those typically good for,
The actual analysis itself
the phase one?
it's as good as long as really the assumptions in terms of project costs, development projections don't change. So if we do the analysis and say for whatever reason you decide not to move forward with a TIF district, now, but a couple months from now or a year from now or whatever it might be, you decide to pick it up again, assuming the assumptions that went into the analysis are still valid, the analysis would still be pretty close to being up to date. If it came forward with something new in terms of project costs or development type projections, then it would have to be updated.
So the town is gonna have no risk in this at all because the developer wants to pay for the fees for this, but I just want the developer to know, right now, per the board agreement, that property is zoned residential.
Yep.
And we have no idea, it's been expressed that for that to change, we have to give something up. So that's gonna lead into item 10I later tonight also. But I mean, there is no guarantees that by paying for this, it's gonna lead to anything other than residential there, just so you know. Okay. All right. Becky, to you.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I see the phase one that they're offering to pay for, but would the approval just be for phase one, or is it the total which is greater than that?
Just phase one.
At this point, that's all, even though the,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Becky, anything?
I don't have anything.
All right. I didn't need, we have no risk. I have no issue with moving forward to this myself. So, John, anything else on this?
No, I think, like I said, once we get the applicable information, it won't take us too long to put it all together and be back in front of you.
Okay. And then the question is how long it's going to last, because, I mean, the last time we entered in any kind of negotiation with the village, it took a long time. And I'm not even anticipating or saying we're going to change anything with the cooperative plan or our border agreement, but just so you know. Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the phase one feasibility analysis for possible TID number 2 for LSBT 0273.998, not to exceed $5,900. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a second? Second by Tadia. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, John.
And just to note, they did pay the fee already.
Yeah, it's,
Yep.
thanks.
Thanks, John.
All right, item 4, move back to that, is the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered in one motion unless a town board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda. So we've got the June 24th, 2019 town board meeting minutes, the operator's licenses, the resignation of Carol Emmel from the park committee, the Barnwood Conservancy letter of credit resolution request number 4, and acceptance of first lift of asphalt shouldering work and release building permit subject to developer's agreement and per the town engineer's recommendation for the Barnwood Conservancy project. Anyone have anything they'd like to remove, or is anyone ready to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Tadia to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Number 5 is approval of bills.
All right, tonight accounts payable totals $86,161.11. The top 5 expenditures, $17,640 to Kunkel Engineering for TID work, working on the crack sealing bid, DNR report for the TMDI for the Bark River flow, and miscellaneous other reimbursable charges. $12,489.83 to Premier Building Inspections for June contract services, meetings, and re-inspections. $7,901.50 to Bierbecker for planning, zoning, attending meetings, planner appointments, border agreement work, and other reimbursable work. $5,908.25 to Kramer, Maltoff, and Hammes, the attorney for Hillside 164 sewer research, plan commission meetings, reviews, and $5,558 to Civic Systems for our annual software support fees for the accounting software. And that's it.
Questions or comments? Is anyone ready to make a motion on the check register?
I'll make a motion, we accept the check register as presented.
Moved by Becky to approve. Is there a second? I'll second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item 6 is announcements, correspondence. I have a meeting schedule here. Tuesday, July 9th will be a Lisbon-Merton Joint Board Agreement public hearing at 6:30 p.m. The 10th will be a Lisbon-Sussex Joint Plan Commission meeting at 6:30 here at the Town Hall. That is tentative at this point. Hopefully it does happen, though. Thursday, July 11th will be a Plan Commission meeting at 6:30 here at the Town Hall. July 15th will be a Park Committee meeting at 6:30 at the Richard Young Fire Station. July 17th will be a Sanitary District Committee meeting at 7:30 p.m. at the Town Hall. 22nd is our next Town Board meeting here. And then August 8th will be the next Plan Commission meeting at 6:30. And then next Town Board meeting on the 12th. And then Park Committee meeting on the 19th. 21st will be tentative for a Sanitary District meeting that could change. And then the last board meeting in August will be on the 26th. Does anyone else have any other announcements or correspondence to note? All right. Item 7, Department Reports, Administrator Report.
Just a few things. We have update on the epoxy countertop. She's going to start Monday, August 12th. So we're all very much looking forward to that. Recycling program dividends. At the last meeting, it was reported that our dividends were drastically decreased, and I did get an email back from Waukesha County. It is explaining about the Materials Recovery Facility fund balance that requires a temporary suspension of base dividend payments. One of the ways is we're trying to reduce contamination, so the county is working on a in-depth anti-contamination campaign that'll give us town-specific information on how to advertise to people what to put in their garbage, what not to, and then the more we can recycle and dispose of properly, then our dividends would hopefully come back up. Next item, Governor vetoed the quarrying section of the budget bill. At the last meeting, I did report that there was a proposal to take local control away from the municipalities over the quarries, and the governor did veto that, and we did send a letter to him, so I think we sent it just in time. And then the June ACH auto pay report is attached for your reference. That's all I got.
All right, any questions for Gina? Thank you, Gina.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Parks Department report.
So John is always busy, still busy. He has been doing sports field maintenance on all the Lisbon's fields, continuing the daily mowing operations, training on park operations with the 3 new seasonal park staff, continuing to do equipment and fleet maintenance, removing trees and limbs from storms. They have spread over 200 yards of wood chips on the playgrounds. We had 175 yards in Community Park alone. There were 23 reservations in the past month of the open air shelters, and they've cleaned them before and after the rentals. Ongoing weeding, cleaning the restroom facilities, and of course we had our first Lisbon Community Festival last month on June 22nd, which had a good turnout. I believe the number we came up with was 500 and something.
I think that's a very good estimate.
Okay.
I'd say somewhere between 450 and 525 happy people.
That's it.
All right. Any questions for Tadia? Thank you. All right, we have the Public Works Department report. Staff completed the first round of roadside mowing. They also completed stormwater projects consisting of installing riprap and culverts at various locations. They saw cut and pulled out crumbled asphalt pavement replaced with new asphalt on sections of road throughout the town. They performed the normal weekly duties of maintaining the compost site. They relocated the LED light on the chimney at the town hall in preparation for the chimney removal. They cleaned up fallen trees from the storm damage. They cleaned storm sewer grates and culverts as needed with the rain. They attended a level 2 and 3 tree cutting classes. They helped the fire department with preventative maintenance on 2 of the ambulances. They also performed repairs and preventative maintenance on trucks and equipment as needed. Doris Stefano attended the monthly WCPA-WA meeting. He attended one board meeting, performed the weed commissioner duties with checking vacant lots and attending to resident concerns of tall grass complaints. Gina and Joe met with Refrigerant Depot and Goodwill to go over our summer recycling event. He also met with Mitch to go over, who's our engineer, to go over some stormwater projects and start getting a plan together for the 2020 budget. He attended the We Energies meeting in regards to the Haas Farms development. He also worked with staff throughout the month on paving, stormwater work, and tree damage cleanup. Anyone have any questions on the DPW report. Item 8 is supervisor reports. Does anyone have anything to report at this time?
We had a public safety meeting last week, and we have, I think, 3 recommendations for the town board that'll be on the next couple of meetings. I'm not sure when, but in the next month or so.
Okay. Thank you, Becky. All right. Item 9 is unfinished business. We don't have any, which brings us to 10, new business. Yeah, we did A already. Item B is discussion necessary action on collection of outstanding developer fees from Twin Pine Farms, aka Mike Batchelor.
While working on the Twin Pine Farms Phase 2B developers agreement, it was brought to our attention that Mike Batchelor, the former developer of Twin Pine Farms, had a breach of developers agreement with the town, and he sold the lots without the town's prior approval. And with that, he did not pay the town any of the impact fees that he owed, which is about $47,373.11. So the town attorney would like the town board's direction to go after him to pursue legal measures to get our monies back.
Questions from the board?
Has the proposed letter already been sent, or is that what they're looking for?
She already sent the letter. There's been no response.
Okay, and it's been a month?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything from you, Becky?
No,
Does anyone want to make a motion on this item?
I will make a motion that we direct our attorneys to pursue necessary action to collect the outstanding developer fees from the developer of Twin Pine Farms, Mike Batchelor.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Becky. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item C, discussion and necessary action on the request from Washington County Highway Department for a letter of support regarding their application for Highway Safety Improvement Program funding for a roundabout at the intersection of County Highway Q and Hillside Road.
Do you want to come up and speak, Scott, since you're here? Might as well.
Good evening, Scott Schmidt, Washington County Highway Commissioner, 900 Lang Street, West Bend, Wisconsin. Thank you for having me. I became commissioner back in 2015. At that point, shortly thereafter, a bunch of residents from both Village of Richfield as well as Town of Lisbon contacted me concerning safety concerns at the intersection. We've been doing minor, low-cost safety improvements at that intersection, if you haven't noticed. Restriping of the roadway to get people more than 90-degree angles, double stop signs, the reflective strips on the stop signs, intersection head signs, double intersection head signs with a flagging on them, all to mixed success. We then, last year, we embarked upon a plan to actually relook at all of our intersections in the county that we actually control and look at them for safety. So we not looked at just that intersection, but all of our county-controlled intersections in the county. And that one actually ended up being in our top 5 of most crashes at a particular intersection. They all do happen to be along County Highway Q. The other top ones are like what we call Hamburger Alley, right in Germantown, by like McDonald's and Fleet Farm in that area. This one stood up. It's actually a little bit different that they have higher speed crashes at the intersection. You can imagine because it's a higher speed than by McDonald's, stuff like that. Those are low volume crashes, a lot of rear end collisions, people going and not realizing the person in front of them didn't go. And so what we looked at, that we spent some really time looking at this intersection in particular, possible improvements. We actually hired a consultant to look at what improvements we can make at this intersection, whether it be turn lanes, four-way stop, traffic signals, what would be the best course of action based on the types of crashes we have and the volume of traffic we have there right now. We also reached out to the town of Lisbon and the Village of Richfield looking at future development to make sure we weren't short-sighted at this, kind of looking forward, and we appreciate you getting back to us with that information. Because we want to make sure whatever we do there not just affects what we did now, but going out into the future, that's really what we're looking forward to doing, to see what improvements can be made. We dealt with sewer pack on this as well, looking at future traffic projections. If you're familiar, Highway Q is 4 lanes by Highway V. Then it goes back down to 2 lanes all the way to 164. We think we're good with the 2 lanes till year 2050 at least, so we know we're not kind of limiting ourselves down to that range down in the future. Like, we're really going to limit ourselves later on. You can imagine the little hamlet of Colgate, very challenging to put 4 lanes through there without wiping off one side of the roadway. I understand. I'm not proponent of that, but it's saying that, as traffic increases, that might be looked at in the future, but right now we're looking at least out past the year 2050. So that's a real positive thing. We hired, like I said, a consultant firm to look at various options. It was TADI, T-A-D-I. Came out there and did some traffic reports, stuff like that. Did some traffic analysis before the new configuration went in for the 164 project, and they came up with the roundabout being the best possible solution at that intersection. And so what we'd like to do is apply for this HISAP money, Highway Safety Improvement Program funding. The great thing about that program, it's a 90-10 split, 90% federal/state money and 10% local money. Roundabout costing roughly around $2 million. We don't have any design plans done. We have a couple sketches that we're starting at, looking at doing. What we'd like to do is we are in contact with the Village of Richfield to set up a public information meeting on July 31st. You can add that to your calendar of potential dates. We'll get you the official notice. You can share it with all your members, post it on your Facebook page or your website or however you want to do that. Just understand that Washington County, we actually only send letters out to those residents that are immediately impacted, which means they might have land impacted by them. So we don't go and send everybody within a mile or 2 miles. You can imagine you don't know where to end. But we will be doing that to the Village of Richfield as well, letting people know that they can come to that meeting on the 31st. That'll be from 6 to 7 p.m. To get a little more information. The actual application is not due until August 15th. So that gives the residents time to actually make comments and submit them so we can submit them along with our application. Tonight what we're looking for is to see if you're willing to support that with a letter to the DOT. It's not required that you do that. It's just something that it's nice that if the DOT sees there's local buy-in as well, not just the county buy-in, but the locals as well. The funding, we're looking at probably construction year of earliest be 2021 up to 2023. So we're in that range of possible dates. We get approved for this funding. Once you take federal money, you've got to follow all the federal rules. And it takes you a while to get to where you need to go once you follow the federal rules that's out there right now. So the current concepts don't take any of the houses away in that intersection. If you can imagine, if you're familiar with that, if you move the roundabout slightly to the west a little bit, there's a house that's relatively close in the southeast quadrant. But if you shift the roundabout to the west, which actually works really well because you always want to come in at a scoop of an angle coming into the roundabouts, it fit in there really nicely. I'm not saying we might not need to take some land there for some stormwater controls and ditching, but right now it's fitting in there very nicely. And so that's why on the 31st we'll have that at that meeting, have those sketches out there, all of our analysis, the TADI analysis, our analysis of the intersection. That's generally speaking about an hour. I'll do a brief presentation about that, about 6:05 or so. And then I sit there and answer any questions I can, and I'll be there as long as I need to be that night to answer anybody's questions. So what we're looking at you for right now would be just a letter of support that you agree that maybe there's some safety improvements that need to be done at that. We have been in touch with the safety engineers at the DOT as well to discuss this with them, and they are currently in concurrence that this is probably the best option going forward for that intersection to help reduce crashes. And that's really what we're looking at doing with this project is to reduce the number of crashes that are at that intersection, especially the number of injury accidents that are there. Sometimes with roundabouts you will get some fender benders. I'm not going to say they're perfect and ideal, but at least you're having a fender bender versus a T-bone type of a crash or potentially a head-on crash with the turning movements that are there right now. Gina did bring up a good point last week about funding of this, and I just want to make sure I'm up front. I like to think I'm up front to the point of being blunt, and I apologize sometimes for that. But we are looking at about a $2 million project. 90-10 split means about $200,000 local match money. We will be coming back at some point and discussing with you if you're willing to chip in maybe $50,000 from you, $50,000 from Richfield, and $100 from the county. Just looking at it, the county's got two legs coming to the intersection. The village has one, you have one, and that might be the possibility, or even lighting. Right now there's one street light that's there, overhead light, not a traffic signal. And if the town's interested in keeping those type of traffic lights that are out there right now, again, overhead light, not a traffic signal, stuff like that. So some people like having lights out there at intersections. Some people hate having lights at the intersection. So we'll be having a lot more public information meetings as this project progresses. This is kind of atypical. I like to communicate a lot, and you can talk to the Village of Richfield on that too, that we don't need to come to here. We don't need to have a public information meeting. We don't really necessarily need the letters from the locals, but we figure that the much more buy-in is better at the beginning of the project versus all of a sudden we show up and saying, hey, we're doing this, and now let's move forward. We'd like to have your input now versus waiting to sometime down in the future. We'll be working with Waukesha County too at some point. They are aware of it, at least the highway commissioner is. Make sure that they'll have to actually do the relocation order. We did a bridge down in Merton with the village of, with the Waukesha County, did that on Highway Q. And so anytime we want to acquire land over the border, so to speak, they'll have to be involved in it as well. So it's not just going to be a Washington County only project. So I just want to kind of lay that out there too. There'll be some Waukesha County involvement, not town involvement with the relocation order, but Waukesha County and their county board supervisors will be involved in this as well, probably a year and a half, 2 years from now, if we get the funding. The challenge we're having is that it's the HISA money is a competitive grant across statewide, so we are in competition with everybody else statewide. There's a pot of money, and the DOT decides who gets that pot of money. So if we don't get it this time around, we will apply again, and then we will probably apply again. And so we just don't know where we sit in that ranking until they actually get all the applications in. So it could very well possibly that we get some of that funding. A $2 million project is the high end of their limit of this, so depending on what else is out there, we might fare very well. We might not fare very well. So I just want to make sure I'm open about that too, that just because we apply for funding doesn't mean we're going to get it. My county committee, my public works committee, is a very conservative committee, and so they see this as an advantageous to do this project, but obviously the funding 90-10 split is very interesting to them to make sure that that's part of this process as well. How to put that better is basically if we don't get the funding, they're going to wait and apply again, and then they'll wait and apply again, versus going forward with the project on our own.
Okay.
So probably more information than you wanted, but hopefully by the end of this week we'll have that date confirmed with the Village of Richfield. I'll get that public information notice out to you. Again, you can share it however you feel is best in your community.
Yep, we will do that. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions from the board? Becky, anything?
No. Is the letter I drafted okay? Yeah?
Yep.
All right. I can give that to you tonight.
Sure. Or just email it to me too is fine.
Okay.
If you want, because then I'll just be scanning in and getting it to the consultant anyway.
All right, I'll email you then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Anybody want to make a motion on this
Do
item?
we need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, motion to direct.
Okay, I make a
Send the letter.
motion that we direct Gina to send the letter she drafted in support of this project.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. All right, items D and E have to do with Grota appraisals. And being I will abstain from these two, you will not have a quorum. So I'm going to make a motion to postpone item D until the next meeting. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Tadia. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. And item E, I make a discussion necessary action on a contract with Grota Appraisals for a market update reevaluation at a cost not to exceed $65,900. I make a motion also to postpone this one.
I'll second.
Seconded by Tadia. Any other no discussion, excuse me. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item F is discussion and necessary action to contract with Forte Payment Systems, Inc. to accept credit card payments for ambulance billing.
Yeah, so this is a request from Amy, the treasurer. She looked into back in late 2018 having credit card services for or payment processing services for ambulance fees. So the memo I typed up is just kind of a broad summary of the charges of what the town would have to pay, and then what the consumer would have to pay, but then also the potential benefits for having the service. We did talk to Forte about coming up with some type of analysis to show what potential benefits we could get, because it would be a cost to the town of $14.95 per month. They did say that 20% of their payments are received via credit card. So with the cost of, or the loss of revenue the town receives from these going into collection, talking with the treasurer, she said most of them are uncollectible because of people just, maybe passing away or just not able to pay. Bankruptcy after 7 years, this gets taken out. if the opportunity presents itself for them to pay immediately, there's a better chance that we could collect payment. Even if we only receive one, maybe two payments from a credit card that we wouldn't normally receive, this would have paid for itself over the year. So the treasurer is looking at approving entering into a service agreement with Forte to enable the town to accept credit card payments, and that's the staff recommendation for a cost not to exceed $14.95 per month. Kevin Clark, the attorney, did review this as well. He had a couple of changes to the contract, which Amy's already worked out with Forte. So we should be good to go with that, and you have that in your packet as well, the contract.
And the convenience fee is paid for by the person.
The 2.09% plus the 0.23 cent per transaction is paid for by the person. The $14.95 is our
Is us.
cost. Yep.
Okay. Discussion.
I think it's a great idea.
I agree. Becky,
Yeah, that's fine.
you want to put that in a motion?
Sure. I move that we contract with Forte Payment Systems, Inc. to accept credit card payments for ambulance billing, and charge to the town is not to exceed $14.95 per month.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Item G, discussion and necessary action on Ed Nelson's request to expand Lisbon's park system. Mr. Nelson.
Good evening, Board. As usual, sitting here, it's been quite an education. Ed Nelson, West 270, North 7531, Oakwood Court, Heartland, 53029. And for the record, I sit on the Park Board and also on the Planning Commission. I did send an email to Gina, but I just want to basically go over the highlights of that. My objective here to being here this evening is to ask for a long-term idea of expanding the Lisbon Park system. Target area would be anywhere. Now, in my email, I said between Highway Q, Plainview Road, Town Line Road, and Lake 5. On further consideration, I don't know if that's necessarily the greatest idea. I would think that it would be anywhere, obviously within the town, that would be feasible and practical. What's my reasoning? To my knowledge, the town has not added parkland. Now, we've obviously upgraded and improved our parks over the last 30 years. But our last major park purchase was in 1981 or 1982, and that would be the present community park located off of Lake 5 Road. My suggestion would be that a committee would look into this, appointed by the full board, or it would be feasible that it was, of course, most likely from this board, turned over to the park board. The area total I'm thinking of, or would suggest, would be anywhere from 10 to 20 acres, and that's basically because of the reality of land prices and market forces that we're seeing within the town. And that's obviously the market price of land, or price per acre, I would safely say is only going to go up. In terms of, I personally believe that the future purchase of land for parks must be objectively done within the next 5 to 10 years. Given the town's growing urbanization, I'm thinking of the Highway 164 corridor. It was interesting just listening to the gentleman in terms of the roundabout on Highway Q. We all know that our major highway points in and around the town of Lisbon are becoming increasingly choked, or are, in terms of volume of traffic, are on the increase. With Highway 164, I would most likely assume that project subdivisions and the growth potential is going to only increase for our town. Of course, tax considerations. How do you do this? Cost of purchase, the possibility of working with a nonprofit or a conservation group, or that could, I would hope, defray costs, or, at the best case scenario, a donation of land to the town. Now, I'm, practicality saying who's going to donate in this day and age, 10 or 20 acres? Most likely not. But I can always be optimistic. I was, again, looking at the northern section of the town, north of Plainview Road, because that's where we seem to have our greatest potential for non-urbanization at this point. But I definitely believe with the increased traffic flow that I expect when 164 is completed and the possible future upgrades of Highway Q, that obviously the price points will go up for that land. So that's why I'm trying to look at a 5 to 10 year window here. I realize that any new park addition or consideration of park addition has to deal with obviously the budget process. And having been sitting here this evening, again, it's always a re-education to sit at a board meeting. And you have a lot on your plate, not just my asking for an increase in some possibility for the park system. I would say, however, that based on the responsible way in which our parks have been upgraded over the last 10 to 20 years and the increased utilization of those parks, that has only added to not just quality of life issues for the town and for residents of the town, which I consider very important. Hence, I can see that would add to the general tax possibilities for the town, meaning that the quality of life issues, having your parks, raises, not lowers, the homes that would surround any park within our town. So, where does other information come from? The park board over the years has of course worked on long-range plans, and I would be negligent if I didn't point out we have a long-range plan obviously for our parks and open spaces. This was last adopted or looked at by this board, I would believe, on May of 2017, and I would, for the record, I want to reference page numbers 5, number 8, and 12 through 14 in this document, which I'm sure you've all seen. And realistically, this does lay out, especially in pages 12 through 14, the proposals or expansions for a future blueprint for this board and for the town of how the Lisbon town parks could be expanded. I've been on the park board, as you know, a long time, and I hope that some of the contributions I've made by bringing monies to the park board, et cetera, for hopefully the betterment of the community, and thank you for mentioning Community Fest, and thank you to members of the board and the public who have supported various things that the park board has done. To me, parks are an integral part of what a community does and what a community is. And when I said you have a lot on your plate, obviously we have there's the upcoming border agreements, et cetera, with the village of Sussex, and all the politics and economics that will be involved with that. But I'm going to assume that the town of Lisbon parks, are going to stand and survive this. And I'm looking at our parks, especially Community Park, which is the jewel in our crown, and our other community parks in the town. I'm looking for, again, a segment of land, 10 to 20 acres, that could be a recreational and environmental point going down the road for our community. And again, I'm looking at this practically in the next 5 to 10 years, if feasible. I realize that it may not happen because I have obviously watched, being on the Planning Commission, where land values are going in our community as various parcels are developed. So, hopefully this gives you food for thought. These recommendations, I hope, could be forwarded to, obviously, the Park Board. We obviously have a competent staff in our parks and our park superintendent that I have worked with for many years. I could say, are there any questions? But I don't think that's not part of the program. It's not appropriate. So thank you for your attention and your time.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
You're well.
Just to follow up on that, I did have in the packet a brief memo about his request. The town does need to complete a new impact fee study. It's been about 12 years since we've done that. And the impact fee study covers population, that where we were, where we are, and where we're going to be, and how that affects park usage and what we need for facilities. And it'll narrow down those areas of what we need and where. So we need to get this done within the next year or so. So park plan that the park committee already has done, I'll send that to the planner. That'll help him with his base research, and then we'll figure out where to go from there. So this could get done sooner than later. So half of this is already being worked on already, but we got to bring it to the board for a
Gina,
quote.
may I ask, does that tie in with the general plan?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's okay.
Yep.
Because obviously, this isn't a large document, but to me, re-looking at it, it's important.
Right, but it provides a lot of helpful information that
does.
the planner won't have to research.
Right.
So that'll be a good jump start for him. So, I mean, we could recommend this to the park committee for their review of the plan and see if they want to make any changes, or we can just postpone this until we get to budget time and talk about it then. Because I'm still waiting for a quote for the impact fee study, so getting there.
Well, I appreciated that you brought this up. You and I have spent some time talking about park expansion and kind of goals for parks and recreation in the town. And I think that we should refer it to, rather than just putting it off for budget, I think we should talk about it in the park committee and continue to evaluate what our options are to continue to have the great parks and or expand our opportunities.
So the conversation stays
Active.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Well, again, I was trying to be practical based on what this board is facing with the 5 to 10 year window. But yes, thank you for your comment. I appreciate it.
All right.
Well, I guess at this point, you want to work with the parks, and
Absolutely.
Staff will keep working on what we have to with the impact analysis. And I don't think there's anything we need to, since we're already underway, really no action we'll have to take on this tonight.
Nope.
You good with that, Becky?
Yes, I'm good with that.
You're good?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, item H, discussion and necessary action on Resolution 08-19, a resolution authorizing participation in the preparation of a cooperative plan with the town of Brookfield.
Want me to dig in? Sure. All right, we are working on some cooperative agreements with the villages of Merton and Lannon, and the town of Brookfield did approach me. They are also working on incorporation efforts as well. So this is another resolution like we've sent to Merton and Lannon authorizing participation in a cooperative plan. They will be putting their same agenda, or their same resolution on their agenda next week, Tuesday. We send out a mailing, we have a public hearing, we start going through that process. So hopefully we'll be having 3 cooperative border agreements under our belt soon.
Questions, comments from the
Just
board?
starts the process.
I think it's great to engage in these conversations. You never know what'll come from them, but it certainly can't hurt to participate in those discussions.
Right. That benefits both communities.
Yep.
Yep.
Becky?
No, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Make a motion that we approve Resolution 08-19, a resolution authorizing participation in preparation of a cooperative plan with the town of Brookfield. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second by Tadia. Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item I, discussion and necessary action on the request from the Village of Sussex to participate in a cooperative plan. All right. Well, the Village of Sussex, at their board meeting, they passed a resolution, correct?
Yep.
To request that we participate in a cooperative plan under the 66.0307 Cooperative Border Agreement. Currently, we have a court-ordered border agreement with the Village of Sussex, which has been in place, I believe, since 2001. And I think anybody who's seen it would agree. Neither community got everything they wanted. Both communities got something, but they did the best they could with what they had. We gave up a lot of land, to get that border agreement. In that border agreement, it also states the Village of Sussex will not oppose our incorporation. They have once already. It was argued that it was started by a citizens group, but to be honest, it was an incorporation effort by the town of Lisbon. No matter who started it, they did oppose it. That didn't sit well with this board, and obviously it wouldn't sit well again if that were to happen again. and we would expect them to honor our current border agreement. We are trying to incorporate. We are absolutely trying to incorporate. We have been trying to incorporate nonstop since the last incorporation effort. It has never stopped. We just don't talk about it. We are currently trying to incorporate under a statute right now that's in the state where it is you don't go through the normal process. One of the things that we need is we need cooperative border agreements. We are currently pursuing those with Merton. We are pursuing those with Lannon. The town of Brookfield would not qualify for one of these, being they are not a village. It was brought to my attention that the administrator from the Village of Sussex did talk to the president of Lannon in an effort to get him to be discouraged from participating in a 660307 border agreement with the town of Lisbon. There was also some emails shared with the administrator in Richfield, and it'd be up to the person reading the email to see how it was intended, but I mean, it basically was, I would take that as a way of saying, please don't do this with the town of Lisbon. It doesn't specifically state that, but it was very well written. I did talk to the Village of Sussex president and one other trustee, and they were not aware that the administrator in Sussex had done this. So I do not doubt the Village of Sussex board's intention of trying to cooperate with the town of Lisbon. I do doubt why the administrator would be pushing this as far as trying to discourage us from getting a cooperative border agreement with two communities, the very border agreement that they are now asking us, the very same style border agreement that they are now asking for us to participate with the Village of Sussex. Why would you discourage us from participating with two other communities to do this, and then you offer up the exact same thing? That does not place trust. That being said, I would be willing to talk with them of what their end goal is. I'm not asking that we pass a resolution. I'm not asking that we do anything, but to ask them what is the end game here? What are you looking for? Because I think we should do that. I would agree. Shared services is something we should do. They've made it very clear in the past, and not the entire board, but meeting with their staff and their village president, they've made it clear that if village services are included, that it will be that we have to give up more land for them. The Vanguard property, which was discussed here tonight, they are very interested in that property. Currently, that property is zoned residential for us, and the border agreement is set to be residential. For that to change, I wasn't part of the discussion, but I believe it was that we have to give something up just to have our zoning change, which is that's not the intent of how things work. That we would have to give up more land just to change our zoning from residential to commercial/industrial, where if the Village of Sussex had it, it would just be changed. So, I mean, this doesn't instill a lot of confidence towards cooperation. It's become very hard to move forward on a lot of things, knowing this has been happening, to be quite honest. I mean, it's not unknown to people that we're trying to incorporate. I mean, that's what I've always said, everything we do is towards incorporation. That's our goal, and we are trying. And I get asked, that is the question I get asked most of all, when are we going to incorporate? My response was always, we are working on it, we are working on it. We did try to keep it quiet how we were trying to incorporate. We were working on it because you don't want to be opposed in this, and we all know it was because we were afraid the Village of Sussex would oppose us. It's out in the open. Everybody needs to know it now. Everybody needs to talk to their neighbors about it and tell them, we want to incorporate. We want to be the Village of Lisbon. We want our own autonomy. People don't understand the differences between a town and a village in a lot of cases where villages have extraterritorial jurisdiction, where somebody you cannot vote for can determine what you can or cannot do on your property, where you have to pay certain fees to other communities so that they can review your parcel, and you cannot in any way, shape, or form affect that in the other community because you cannot vote for those people. I mean, and that to me is a loophole, period, but it's something we're ready. We're ready to be a village. We really are. So I guess what I would ask after that long-winded deal is that you would authorize Gina and myself to have discussions with the village president and their administrator on what they are looking for in this border agreement. Not authorize us to approve anything, not make any deals, just to talk to them and see what they're looking for.
I think those were very bold statements, but I think it's good to clear the air, so to speak, and so I'm glad that you said them. And of course, I absolutely believe we need to talk with them. I share all of the concerns and the sentiment that have been expressed here today. I'd be surprised if we all didn't share that. But we do need to engage in those discussions and find out what it takes to reach our end goal.
Agreed. Becky?
Well, you all know I've been around long enough to have gone through not the first, but the incorporation that Bob Williams and Wendy Landry and Denise Wagner started. I would agree with Joe that I really don't want to approve this cooperative plan, but I would be in favor of having Joe and Gina talk to them to find out what they're up to.
Right. I mean, I want to work with the Village of Sussex Board. I really do. I really do. I think they're good people over there. I would like to work with them. But it cannot always be at the expense of the town. Now, granted, I mean, it's, like I said, with the border agreement, nobody got everything they wanted by any means. But we gave up a lot of land. I mean, Kohl's, McDonald's, Pick and Save, the entire, everything down 164, Myers. I mean, this is all very, very valuable land we gave up in the border agreement. You know, and I mean, we paid a price there. We did to get so that we would not be opposed in our incorporation. So.
My only last statement would be, I think you know me well enough to know, but olive branches, I think, should always be extended and received well. We don't know whether it's an olive branch or a ruse, but at least we should extend that olive branch back.
And like I said, I think the village board is sincere. I question the leader of their staff at this point, because why would you, without your board approval, go and approach the president of Lannon and send a letter to the village of Richfield, however you want to interpret that letter to the village of Richfield. I mean, everybody can read it on their own and see, but I mean, however you want to interpret it, to try and get them to not sign this border agreement with us, and then just throw the exact same border agreement at us. Or cooperative plan, excuse me. So, all right. Any other discussion? Do we need a...
Motion to authorize this. Yep.
I'll make a motion that we authorize resolution 19-10.
Nope.
No, sorry.
Nope, do not.
The
Authorize the
participation in the
Chairman and administrator
to talk,
for
okay.
discussion.
Yeah, no
No
authorization of
resolution yet.
any resolution.
Okay, to have the discussion with the Village of Sussex about a potential cooperative plan. How's that? Okay, okay. Fair enough.
I'll
Is there a
second it.
All right, so we'd be voting on we're voting to authorize Gina and myself to talk with the Village of Sussex staff
About the cooperative plan.
and president about the cooperative plan. Okay, so everybody's very clear on that. All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item 11 is adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
By Tadia, second by Becky. All in favor?
Aye. Quite
Opposed?
upset by somebody last week.
Right? We're out at 7:28.